It is 0 hour 30 Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. A group linked to Al-Qaeda says it has killed 4 Russian embassy workers. The Russians were kidnapped in Baghdad earlier this month. The Mujahideen Shura Council placed a statement on the Internet. They included a recording showing at least 2 hostages being killed. The group said they killed the workers to express anger for what they called the killing of their brothers and sisters by the Russian government. Earlier, Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki presented to Parliament a national plan aimed at reducing violence across the country. He told lawmakers that it includes an official pardon for those who did not take part in criminal or terrorist activities. American-led coalition forces in Afghanistan say 2 soldiers have been killed during a battle in southern Kandahar province. The coalition says about 45 rebels were also killed in the fighting. An Afghan commander says the battle Saturday continued for several hours, and Taliban fighters kidnapped 5 Afghan healthcare workers in northeastern Nuristan province. Also in Afghanistan, President Hamid Karzai said what is left of the ousted Taliban rule is no threat to his government. Mr. Karzai told reporters that Taliban fighters attack schools, religious leaders, and road workers, but he said they are not as strong as Afghan military forces. Israel is considering a military answer to an attack by Palestinian militants. The attack killed 2 Israeli soldiers and led to the kidnapping of a 3rd. The Israeli Security Cabinet held an emergency meeting. The group decided Israeli troops should prepare for action against militants in the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Ehud Olmert said their military answer would continue for more than a day or 2. The cabinet also agreed to continue using diplomacy to negotiate the release of the captured Israeli soldier. Defense Minister Amir Peretz has said the militants who kidnapped the soldier will pay a painful price for the attack. Officials in Turkey say an explosion in the town of Antalya has killed 4 people. 25 others were injured. The Mediterranean coast town is popular with visitors. Officials say the explosion was caused by a container of gas. They are not sure if it was an accident or an attack. Reports from Pakistan say pro-Taliban fighters say they will call a 1-month-long ceasefire in an area near the border with Afghanistan. A reported spokesman for the fighters in North Waziristan says they will stop their attacks if officials withdraw army troops from new positions. Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf has warned the fighters to leave the area or risk being killed. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Some American lawmakers have asked President Bush for talks with North Korea. They are concerned that nation might be preparing to test-fire a missile that could reach the United States. Members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee suggested that direct talks are the best way to find a diplomatic solution to the situation. The United States has rejected requests from North Korea for talks. The Bush administration has said All such discussion must be part of six-nation nuclear disarmament talks with South Korea, Japan, China, and Russia. Australian Prime Minister John Howard is preparing to meet with Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono on Batam Island. They hope to improve tense relations between their nations. The meeting will be the first between the two leaders since Australia gave temporary protection visas to 42 Papuans in March. That action angered the Indonesian government. The leaders are also expected to discuss the release of militant Islamic religious leader Abu Bakr Bashir. Mr. Howard said last month that he would express his anger about the release to Mr. Yudhoyono. Bashir was released from an Indonesian prison last week after serving nearly 26 months. He was jailed for his involvement in the 2002 bomb attacks in Bali. The attacks killed more than 200 people, including 88 Australians. The ruling party of East Timor says it will not remove Prime Minister Mari Alkatiri from office. The Fretilin Party announced Sunday that it would continue to support Mr. Alkatiri. East Timorese President Xanana Gusmao and the public have demanded the Prime Minister's resignation. The country's Foreign and Defense Minister, José Ramos Horta, resigned to protest Mr. Alkatiri's leadership. The Prime Minister has been blamed for recent violence in the country. It began after he dismissed hundreds of soldiers who had criticized conditions in the East Timorese military. In sports news, at the World Cup in Germany, England and Portugal have defeated their opponents to continue competing. Portugal defeated the Netherlands in Nuremberg by a score of 1-0. England defeated Ecuador by the same score in Stuttgart. Portugal will play England on Saturday. David Beckham scored the only goal for England. He is the first Englishman to score in 3 different World Cup competitions. Finally, this news. American businessman Warren Buffett says he will give 85% of his money to 5 organizations. Mr. Buffett is one of the richest men in the United States. Mr. Buffett said he will put aside 10 million shares of stock in his investment company, Berkshire Hathaway. The shares are valued at $30 million. Some of the money will be given to the organizations each year. Most of the money will go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This organization works to help solve some of the greatest problems in the world, including health care for the poor. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour in Special English. A group linked to Al-Qaeda says it has killed 4 Russian embassy workers in Iraq. American-led coalition forces in Afghanistan say 2 soldiers have been killed during a battle in southern Kandahar province. And some American lawmakers have asked President Bush to hold talks with North Korea. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.